Striving for perfection has seen Rolls-Royce create the world's ultimate convertible, this Phantom Drophead Coupe. If you have the means, it's an unashamed indulgence, and a highly impressive one.
Rolls-Royce has a rich and elegant history of producing unique and very expensive luxury convertibles. They've been very impressive cars, but until the turn of the century, never great ones. People bought them for the name, the status and the open-topped wooden leather Britishness they offered. One of BMW's first decisions on taking control of this famous brand in 1998 was to decree that to be no longer good enough. And that intent was underlined with clinical excellence by their 2003 Phantom Saloon. A year later, the company unveiled a convertible version, the 100EX, which circled the world's motor shows, gathering comment and hopeful deposits from prospective plutocratic owners desperate to see it in production. In 2007, their dreams were realised and the Phantom Drophead Coupe was born. As any Rolls-Royce should be more than just a car, this one must be more than just a luxury convertible. For £250,000, you would expect no less. Cutting-edge technology means that for the first time since pre-war days, Rolls-Royces today are as advanced as any motor car on the road, but that isn't what makes this one stand out. This isn't a car inspired by other rivals, and it certainly isn't merely an open-top version of the Phantom Saloon. Instead, the design team immerse themselves in yachts and stately homes, classic design and timeless elegance, and brought us this. Work of art or flawed masterpiece? That's what we're here to find out. Here, as you would expect, is an experience to savour. The 100EX concept car this model was developed from featured a V16 engine that made its underbody architecture as jaw-dropping as its price. But production versions have satisfied themselves instead with the same BMW-based 6.75 litre, 453 brake horsepower, normally aspirated V12 that you'll find in the Phantom Saloon. Still, it is, to use a very Rolls-Royce word, sufficient. Indeed, at 100 miles an hour, the power reserve gauge that replaces the normal rev counter indicates that 90% of your power remains untapped. Discussion of performance figures seems somehow vulgar in a car of this kind, but if you're interested, 60 is dispatched from rest in 5.7 seconds, courtesy of 700 Newton meters of torque that gently rolls back the horizon until a speed limiter bridles your progress very gently at 150 miles an hour. As for driving pleasure, well, it's important to realise right at the start in this respect that the intention of this car's creators was to lower its owners' heart rates, not to raise them. So the driving position is commanding rather than sportily low, and the thin-rimmed steering wheel, though accurately responsive, offers little that you might call feedback. As for sports suspension buttons or switchable stability control programs, well, even the provision of such features would leave room for the possibility that the driver might know better than this car's creators how best any given road situation might be addressed. Inconceivable, of course. So instead, you leave yourself in their hands, as once you've realised that the near silent engine is in fact running, you glide forward, marvelling at the ease at which 2.6 tonnes of the world's finest automotive real estate can be urged towards the horizon. There are adjustments to make, of course. It isn't the easiest thing to manoeuvre at low speeds, thanks to the sheer size and roof up, the pillar box slot of the rear window, plus the light controls, the quick steering and the sheer urgency of the power are a world away from what most will be used to. Still, once you get over all that and relax in this Rolls, it's hard to think of a finer way to travel, at least if you're wafting slowly. At speeds of over 65 miles an hour, there's a bit more turbulence than you get in a comparable Bentley, thanks perhaps to the low window rail at the front here and the shallow side window line. But roof up, you could be in your favourite armchair, separate and remote from the world rushing by. You'll want alfresco motoring as often as possible, of course, in which state The structural wobble that afflicts even pricey convertibles has been ironed out at source, thanks to the astonishing body stiffness that's produced the substantial 2.6 tonne weight. Yet the ride is smooth and supple, with even imperfect surfaces drifting unnoticed beneath your wheels. And a lower centre of gravity, a perfect 50-50 weight distribution, and a shorter wheelbase than the Phantom Saloon means that if necessary you can even throw this car around a bit. It's just that you wouldn't really want to. Better to use it for slow street cruising, the 6-speed automatic gearbox facilitating a dignified status as you glide along past the less fortunate. This car's creators claim it to be a less formal interpretation of classic Rolls-Royce design than its four-door stablemate. And look carefully at it and it's easy to see what they mean. Pretty much nothing is shared with the Phantom Saloon apart from the engine, with every exterior panel new, part of carefully considered shorter proportions more suited to the car's convertible remit. Mind you, I say shorter. At 5.6 metres long, this is the largest convertible yet made, 200mm longer even than Bentley's enormous Azure. Still, those proportions are perfect, and actually, if you look closely, actually quite sporty. Look closely and you'll see that the more rakishly set back front grille is actually more streamlined than other Rolls-Royces, and there are slim LED front side lights sitting above larger round driving lamps. And while we're talking out of the ordinary, let's touch upon the rear picnic boot, the very essence of automotive affability. Though at 315 litres in size, it's only just about as big as it needs to be to swallow the regulation 3 sets of golf clubs. Its real party piece is this split rear tailgate, strong enough to enable 2 owners to sit down and enjoy a couple of well-earned glasses of champagne. Shunning a current trend for folding metal tops, not suited to elegant looks or picnic boots, Rolls has bought us the largest convertible fabric top yet made, 5-layered, acoustically tuned and cashmere lined to fold behind the cockpit in just 25 seconds. The hood is near perfectly sealed against wind noise, but its design can make it feel rather claustrophobic when you're riding here in the back seats. Now, they're perfectly curved lounge seats, but you'd expect probably a bit more space from the world's largest convertible. It is, however, easy to get in and out of thanks to these front seats that electrically glide forward to aid you in exit via these rear opening coach doors. Slipping behind the wheel requires a big step over the wide sills. And it's something that, such as the excellence of wood, leather, chrome and brushed steel in the cabin here, that you feel awkward doing in anything other than a perfectly tailored suit. But once you're here, the excellence is awe-inspiring. It takes over 350 man-hours to create one of these. 18 separate hides of leather around here, 450 individual leather parts, and it's the same when it comes to the perfectly finished veneer. There are no fewer than 60 pieces of veneer in here. Each of them are 40 layers thick, glued onto aluminium and finished by hand. And the Rolls-Royce woodshop can spend up to a month preparing, finishing and shaping the end result. And the quality of the design matches the care expended in creating it. The fascia hides many of its buttons and switches, plus the colour LCD screen used for satellite navigation and other functions behind exquisitely crafted wood panelling. If you want, you can drive the car and control everything from the 15-speaker stereo to the multi-zone air conditioning without touching any of it. But when you need it, it's there. Everything from this slide-out drawer that hides the telephone keypad to this compartment that looks after the multifunction controller based on BMW iDrive, but much simpler to use. The spherical air vents, chromed and beautifully made, with their organ stock levers, are a welcome touch. Buying one of these cars isn't something you save up to do, not unless you live to be very old anyway. At £325,000, the multi-millionaires who sign up for one will see it as an entertaining diversion on which to blow some disposable income rather than the culmination of a lifetime's automotive ambition. It won't occur to these people that for £75,000 less they could have had a faster and almost as carefully crafted Bentley Azure, any more than they'll do the sums and work out that for the same kind of money they could have had 5 Mercedes SLs on their driveway. Now, though Phantom Drophead customers have no choice when it comes to engine, suspension or gearbox, that's probably just as well, given the almost bewildering choice on the options list. There are no fewer than 43,000 hues of paint, different colours to choose from. And it doesn't stop there. There are 9 different interior colour palette choices and 6 different choices of colour for the leather used on the seats and the headlining. As far as options are concerned beyond that, well, where do you start? The most popular ones are the stainless steel bonnet and the rear teak decking, but most customers will also want the 21-inch wheels and perhaps even pay a couple of extra £1,000 to have them chromed. From then on, the sky's the limit. I debated with myself whether it was even necessary to cover this subject at all when talking about this car. After all, it seems rather curious to spend over £325,000 on a motoring conveyance like this and then worry about fuel consumption, CO2 and insurance groupings. For most owners, the more important factor when thinking about fuel will be range, a figure that spells the interval between queuing assignments at the local filling station with the great undoshed. A 17.6 gallon tank and a combined fuel consumption reading of 18 miles to the gallon spells a total range figure of around 270 miles, provided you haven't got a particularly heavy right foot. For the sake of completeness, I'll also tell you that the CO2 figure is a politically incorrect 370 grams per kilometre, and insurance is, of course, a top of the shop Group 20. Plus, if you've specified the teak rear decking, the servicing costs will be even more awesome, because each of the 30 planks have to be re-oiled at every scheduled service. Sold out before it ever turned a wheel, the Phantom Drophead Coupe's success was always assured. There is, after all, a depth of engineering to this car that's massively impressive, fusing as it does the best technology its German brand owners can serve up with meticulous, almost dementedly detailed British craftsmanship. It's big, it's rather brash, but above all, it's brilliant. Ownership of this car confirms not only your arrival as part of the wealthy elite, but your establishment there. It's an automobile across which resonates the maxim of company founder Sir Henry Royce: strive for perfection in everything you do. That perfection comes in many shapes and forms, and this is one of them.